Thanks
Korey
for having
and
me.
Dan, I'm just going to kick it over to you and mute myself. So welcome back. It's a great way to wrap up all that you've contributed throughout the year. So we're all eager to hear what you have to say and take it away.
Cool. I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it's been a long year, right? I think when we entered into 2020, one of the things we were evangelizing, if you will, is where do you find growth? And I personally walked into 2020, of course, not even like appreciating the COVID impact in China, coming out of China during December, November. We were already in the mindset like, hey, you got to think outside of the box. You're going to have to find growth in many different places, especially, it was a strong economy, albeit, Wall Street was beginning to pull back a bit in December into January, but you're still coming off the backs of a strong economy over the last 4 or 5 years. And usually what happens there is you start competing for crumbs, right? Pricing goes up or, things get commoditized. But here we are 12 months later, looking for growth. It's not that you have to look in different places. It's you really got to double down on your core competencies. And one of the things that we're looking at as we look at 2021 is, there's a few things from a finance perspective. You still have economic uncertainty, although it has come back. But even today, the unemployment numbers, they're not looking good, right? They're still 50% lower than expectations, right? You're looking at tax, a lot of tax uncertainty for those companies that did receive the PPP loan. Over the last 3 weeks, or about 3 weeks ago, the IRS issued new guidelines that is really taking a lot of us, I don't want to say by surprise, but it's like, wow, we were really hoping that some of this PPP money would be tax-free. Well, guess what? It's not. Yeah, if you're making a profit, we could see that, but there are a lot of companies that didn't make a profit, and now with this PPP money, they made a profit on a cash basis. And of course, they use the money. They use the money to do all the right things in their business, right size their working capital. They were able to maybe collect a little bit more accounts receivable, and then
They arguably couldn't turn a profit had they not gotten that money in the first place.
in addition. And so here we are. You have a lot of companies that made it through this. And now they're like, oh my God, where am I going to find cash to pay my tax liability for this PPP loan? So that's something else we want to touch on. So tax planning, especially around PPP, and thinking about the backdrop of your business, and now how important is marketing? I mean, this week we had a great guest on our podcast.
Jeff Hyde over at Hawk Media, a national marketing strategy firm.
Yep.
And then the theme of that was how COVID turned businesses and everyone into marketers, right? So marketing almost had to become one of your core competencies, regardless of what your industry was, right? Human persona changed, buying habits changed, the consumer changed. How does that impact what businesses do to attract customers?
Not to mention how you sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many small businesses, how do they sell? Well, it's usually like, let's go grab a beer at the bar and let's meet each other, or let's go break some bread, or let's go to the venture cafe and get to meet the world. Well, you can't do that anymore. So you had to you didn't have a choice but to double down on marketing. And it wasn't just traditional marketing. You really had to expand. So, I love, Toonie, when you asked me, so who does that for you? It's like, well, we had to figure it out really quickly. Like, we knew how to do it. We just never institutionalized it, right? It was more ad hoc, if you will.
And
right?
it's becoming more and more important because there's people out there, you can hire people, you can pay these big firms, Hawk Media, good money to do it for you, but
it's got to be a core competence.
In the small business worlds, you don't have the money to pay people. You have to understand it yourself, or you have to understand at least 80% of it, enough to be dangerous to
I agree
get
with
yourself
that.
off the ground.
I mean, a lot of what small business owners do is enough to be dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it. Until it's a big enough of an issue or an opportunity where you either outsource it or you insource it and you hire your own talent.
Yeah.
So, from a bunch of finance guys, we're talking marketing. It's crazy, right? And so we have marketing very much top of mind. We have the PPP money and the tax implications. And then lastly, going into next year, planning is always important. Short-term planning, that 13-week cash flow planning was super critical in the midst of COVID and the economic shutdown. But today, I believe that a 12-month, walking into 2021 without a 12-month budget, and I'm not talking just accrual, like where's my revenue going to be, but translating that into a 12-month cash budget that also considers my tax liabilities, because we still don't know what that looks like, I think is super critical right now. And of course, one last thing, this is all again in the backdrop, not just of COVID, but a lot of political and social uncertainty that has not gone away. Okay, so
And I don't think it, to that point, I don't think it will, especially with the PPP, right? With the Biden presidency, that obviously looks like a whole different tax plan in a lot of different regards. The PPP, I have a feeling, won't get really hashed out until Q1, Q2.
we hope so.
Hopefully, we thought that this year, but here we are. So
I think the only good news is if the Senate kind of stays in the Republican hands, you probably are going to have more sort of consistency, right? Sure. So, but anyways, with all that said, I want to make this a little more interactive, and feel free to ask questions. And
is it Deborah? Deborah, can you tell us a little bit about your business? That will kind of help guide a little bit of the conversation.
So for me, I've been a private doula for years, and I was online for a while, but there wasn't a huge need for a website presence because I was so one-on-one with my clients. But now with COVID, we're having to do birth education online, products, services. And so I'm starting to make different choices to go back online and have that website, Facebook, social, the whole social experience, and making sure that clients can reach me locally and internationally.
Nice. And how are you doing that yourself? Are you having people around the table help you, or how's that experience?
Well, being in this incubator, I'm really getting the resources that I need. It's fast and furious, but I'm hoping within the next 6 months to get up, moving, classes going, products, services. That's the goal. So I'm going in a good direction, and the incubator that I'm in with SEG just covers everything. They have everything I need right there.
Yeah, Kelly's great. Kelly's a neighbor of mine too. Our kids go to school together. Yeah, no, that's good. Again, either for those companies or those individuals, if there's one theme that comes out of 2020 is you have to pivot your business. If you sort of like put your head in the sand, you have to be able to pivot, because I believe, and this is just me now, this is a paradigm shift. This is not like I'm not taking it this way. I believe that things have changed, and they're not all going to go back to the way they were. Whether we're talking about office space, physical footprint, how we consume services, how we consume products. You should take a listen to the podcast from this week. That's what we talked about. It's like the pandemic has shifted consumer behavior. How even B2B, that is very much, dig your heels into the, they always dig their heels in. They don't want to change. Even B2B is having to change. And for those companies that are not changing, it's just going to be hard to get through this. Your infrastructure is all premise based. It's all based on your physical location. If you're not moving your infrastructure to the cloud, if you're not thinking about, again, coming from us, if you're not thinking about your accounting and your financial management systems and ensuring that they do have at the core of your DNA has to be like business continuity and disaster recovery. And one of the only ways to really, a fail-safe way is get that box out of your office, go into the cloud, right? Get rid of the servers, get rid of the premise-based phones. Now is the time to do that. It's an exciting time to do it.
I think you touched on something quickly in terms of like planning for 2021. what I've been hearing a lot is, is there going to be another tranche of PPP money, right? Who knows? Don't know. But where I was going with that is
They're talking about a $900 billion bill, right?
I'm not counting on it. But where I was going with that is a lot of people, you still need to plan, right? You ask the question to some entrepreneurs, small businesses, what are you actually going to do with that money, right? Because if you just get that check in your pocket, that's great and all, but if you don't have a plan to execute on that and actually kind of pivot your business to where you were going with that, then that money is really useless, right? And so I think it comes back full circle to the essence of building out that 2021 plan now, and you can build a scenario plan off of it, right? What does it look like if I get another tranche of money, a loan, a PPP, whatever? What does that look like? And if I don't get one, what is my countermeasures so that I'm not caught off guard?
Yeah, my 2 cents is, if we do get another stimulus opportunity, or if there are these grants that come about, it's focusing them on marketing, right? So Toonie, again, back to your question, how did you either build the capability internally, or just, be dangerous enough to know how to do it, or hire outside service providers to do it? So that's 1. 2, think about your physical infrastructure. If you are one of those companies that do have an office space or do have an actual physical footprint, think about how to reduce the necessity to be at that location, or even like shrink the location. That's 2. 3, I would probably think about financial management, right? Because with good, solid financial management, that does give you, if your business is successful and you're able to pivot or transition through this, having strong financial and robust financial statements will allow you, it's a leg up on getting financing, private capital, bank money, et cetera. So those are the 3 places I would be focusing on.
So for someone like Deborah, because she's not alone, someone that's transitioning her business, right? It's kind of going more to the cloud, or not to the cloud, but more online, having a much greater online presence. Kind of taking a look back at our experiences, what would be like the first thing that you would do, right? If you had a blanket,
yeah,
what would you do?
So again, I would ask you, how dangerous are you, right? With website building, website tools, social media, copyright, content, right? If you're the type of person that enjoys learning and acquiring new skills, I would say, go to HubSpot's academic university site that they have.
I can actually interrupt you, Dan. We have tons of support for small business. We have tons of workshops we've recorded, and we're happy to get you all that information, Deborah. If you want to drop your email, and you can send it private to Allie, who's on here, she can send you a list of I
put it on the chat.
In our YouTube channel, District Hall Providence has a ton of resources, including a lot of GrowthLab videos with great information. Speaking to this, so I think, because I'm a business strategist first and foremost, I always think foundationally, right? So that financial planning to me is like the foundation, right? And then the other stuff you were talking about is what you do next, right? So do you have any, and it's like ice picks in the eyeballs, right? As soon as we start talking about financial planning and strategy to small business owners, it's like our eyes glaze over. And I know, because I'm a serial entrepreneur. And do you have any tips, tricks, tools, suggestions on how to make it easy, right? Like when I help clients build like business strategies, I try to keep it as simple as possible and focus on building easy to execute, therefore succeed at, right? Business strategies and business plans. Do you have any tools? Like, do you have a base, like, do you have a PDF? Do you have anything you can share, or websites they can go to download? I know, like, we're building, right, Shaheen, we're building our budget for our organization for 2021, and we're doing, best, worst, and mid case scenarios, right? For everything, like all the different programming. And so can you speak to, I know that's a lot of questions, typical.
No. I'm with you. Keep it simple. Even from one of the most difficult things we have with new customers, especially those that are startup and trying to raise capital, is they have 1,000,001 ways of making money. And it's just like, okay, can we just focus on 2? Can we focus on maybe one, right? Let's focus on the one thing that you're really, really good at. Let's focus on the one thing that you can kill it, right? That's your revenue, right? That's your customer. Who's my customer? What's the problem I'm solving for? What's my product or service? And what's my pricing? And then try to come up with how much revenue can I expect? So bringing it back to Deborah, it's okay. What's my revenue model? How am I monetizing my brand? How am I monetizing my services? How am I pricing it? That's going to be something that's very different and unique than what you were used to in the past, right? Obviously. So it's like, okay, how do I monetize that? The days of like monetizing your production, your brand through advertising, that doesn't work anymore. So how are you going to monetize? I have a customer in sort of close to that world, Healthy Babies, Happy Moms, Kathy Moran, someone you should really connect with. You know, she sticks to
Used to network together. I love her.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Years back, yeah.
Yeah, I go like long.
I talked to her yesterday.
Yeah. You know, she focuses on what she's really good at. It's that lactation consultant.
Absolutely.
She may have a leg up or not on you in that she's got third-party panels, right? She's got the insurance piece of it. You got to figure that out. Is there can you get reimbursed for your services, for your advice to new moms or expecting moms? And then once you understand, like, you know, how am I providing the service? Okay, because is it just you? Are you going to need employees or 1099ers, or are you going to create a consortium of other individuals under one brand umbrella? Now you figured out your revenue opportunity, your revenue proposition. I wouldn't even go out more than 12 months at this point. You know, as you're pivoting, try to think short term, right? What are the 3 things that I can do to kill it? Okay, to hit my revenue targets. I'm going to take one step back because I'm kind of bouncing around on the income statement. When you're a freelancer or when you're an individual, you know, when you're alone, if you will, you got to ask yourself, how much money do I need to survive? And that's like your net income, right? So most of the time with companies, you kind of start from the top and, like, you know, especially venture back, because it's just a lot of spending, right, as they're building their product. But because you're like a real person and you need to like put real food on your table, you really need to start with like, how much money do I need? My rent, my food, etc. And now you begin to build up from there, because that's really going to be like the litmus test. Like, hey, is this actually going to work? You know, what does it take? If it's going to take me 6 months to ramp up, you know, I need to eat in those 6 months. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
So keep it simple, right?
I think on top of that, we're you know, starting at the bottom with the expenses, what do you actually need to cover? What I see often is people don't disconnect between like, what are you actually going to sell and the revenue itself, right? So they'll just plug in $10,000. They'll just plug in, I want to do $500,000 this year, right? And there's a disconnect because you don't actually know what that translates to and how much you actually need to sell, right? So start with, how many products do I think I can sell, or services do I think I can sell? How many hours can I service people on, right? Break apart the money from what you can actually service. Start with that and then attach dollars to it.
Yeah, can you guys talk about, so what I like to say is like, set that long-term goal, right? Annual revenue, and then reverse engineer your short-term objectives to that. Can you talk a little bit about your suggestions for planning that, and talk about margin a little bit and how to break down revenue actually?
I love plans, like financial plans that come with a roadmap, tactical, right? If I expect to achieve X amount in revenue in the next 12 months, then you need to be able to explain the how. How am I going to do that? Because to generate revenue, it requires resources, capital, effort, whether it's social media, whether it's a website, whether it's hiring a salesperson, right? That requires capital. And then if you do hire a salesperson to achieve those revenue targets, then that salesperson is going to need to close so many deals at X price. In order to close so many deals at X price, you're going to need so many leads, right? So everything kind of is very formulaic. It kind of comes down, and that helps you define the what and the how. How am I going to achieve that? So the way I like to put these things, again, strategy at heart here, is, okay, if that's my goal, I'm going to break that down into chunks. So if it's a 12-month goal, I'm going to break it down into 4 quarters. And within the 4 quarters, I'm going to have the people side, the capital side. And so I don't know if you guys know what a chevron is, right? You've got these chevrons, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Under that, you've got your 4 or 5 major things, right? Whether it's people, capital, I'm missing 1 or 2, I know, operations. So what am I going to do? And that begins to put more rigor and puts you on that cadence, right? It's like a Gantt chart, right? It's a very simple.
And it allows you to actually measure against it, which is most important.
Oh yeah. If you can't measure it, don't do it, right? So, and margin, we talked about margin, you asked about margin. Margin to me is one of the most important aspects or ratios, because it's like the second derivative of the actual the numbers, right? In a sustainable business, you always want your margins to expand. So every new dollar of revenue that comes in, you should be seeing expansion in that dollar. The last thing you ever want to see is for every new dollar that comes in revenue, it's costing you more money to service that dollar. In other words, I shouldn't even have bothered capturing that dollar. Let the competition deal with that dollar. So margin is important. You always want to see margins expanding or shrinking if it's the other way around. In other words, if I've got a fixed base in my business, we're going to call that overhead operating expenses. For every new dollar of revenue I bring in, that operating base shouldn't expand proportionally. It should just kind of stay the way it is. Otherwise, you probably need to take a couple of steps back and begin to ask the why. Why do I have to add another head every time a new dollar comes in? So
I think this is great advice.
Helpful.
Yeah, I love, the simple ways you're illustrating this, like chunks are so important. And because people get overwhelmed, like when you were talking about that, right, it gets overwhelming, but then you backed it up and said, so then you start chunking it up and then you get to that sweet spot. Awesome.
It
Amy.
allows you to actually, having those data points really allows you to be tactical. It allows you to be laser focused on that execution. And plus, it's like the canary in the coal mine on the margin stuff. The margins are the canaries in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys know what that means? A lot of people probably don't know what canaries in the coal mine mean.
I had to ask the first time too. We said that.
We're old, Dan.
They don't have mines anymore, do they?
Yeah, they do.
They even make diamonds now in a laboratory.
No, they still have mines, but I think they have different ways to quantify.
I don't think they're sending down birds anymore. I think there's.
All right,
you might call the technology canaries. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crazy. Anything else, Amy, that you can think of?
So, as you guys talk about, thinking about your footprint and your physical space, I know you said you doubled down on marketing and now you're getting new clients from Brazil. But are you guys shrinking your office space? What's the plan for GrowthLab? What's the practical steps you're taking?
I'm a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to the office culture. I had a great meeting with a gentleman. His name is Peter Kim. He was the founder of Hudson Jeans. He sold his business for $100 million. We were talking to him on Wednesday night, and we were talking about companies with soul, right? And what does it mean to build a company with soul? I come from a world where the physical footprint was very important. People work together, you learn together, you grow together. It is very difficult today for a small business owner. And my heart goes out to these young adults graduating out of college. You have that 4-year degree, but man, you need another 4 years of professional development. How does that translate in today's world? How does that translate into what management has to do to develop these young adults professionally? Well, the office footprint was always the answer. You can shadow somebody. You can listen into a phone call. You can even watch me type an email, right? Today, you don't have that. We're just trying to figure that out. So what's our plan for our office? We're going to maintain it. It's a safe environment. It allows, whether it's our young adults or our moms, our employees with families, to escape the home front, to escape the kids, to escape the roommates. But we don't want people here more than once a week. And obviously right now nobody's here. But I still see a place for the physical footprint.
I think depending on the business, you almost have to keep it because, to your point, the training, right? It's so difficult to train new talents without it. I can't imagine if we didn't have it a few years ago.
I just really appreciate and need to shout out to you guys for being so transparent with, not only are you, teaching this, right, your expertise, but you're also practicing it, like you're walking your talk, and we've seen you do it all year. And I think that's helpful for you to share that information. And it's like you're a case study in yourself, right? And so everything you're talking about, you're also practicing. So thank you for all you share all year long. You've been the first to hack this information and get it out open source. And you're amazing community members, and we appreciate you. So as we wrap up 2020, thank you, GrowthLab, for being awesome partners.
Thank you.